Hey everybody, we're live, and actually we're waiting for. There's actually a couple of meetings going on. There's one with California's Assembly uh, Representative Barbara Lee that started on Facebook. Then there's this one with new California Representative Senator Alex Padilla and Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, which starts any minute. So that's what's happening. So what we're waiting for right now on StreamYard is, if you have a look here, waiting for this to open. And so I'm going over to Cisco WebEx to see if indeed this has gotten started. Refresh the screen, see where we're going with this. It says sign in. Oh, excuse me. Let me go back here. 12:03. It really starts at 12:10 Eastern time, which is 9 o'clock in California. I'm waiting for this to connect. CPD press office. This is connecting. I hope this works. Okay, we have one meeting in progress, it says. Really? Let's try this. Oops, I don't have those credentials. All right. Let's refresh the screen. Sign in. Spinning and spinning. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. We already have one meeting in progress. You can start or join a new meeting when you leave the previous meeting. Okay. It reads it's connecting, but nothing is happening. see. Try. It says I have one meeting in progress. I do. Okay. WebEx. It says start your meeting. You know why they use Cisco WebEx rather than Zoom? Everyone's got to get creative. Sorry, folks. Click that one. Then open this one. WebEx meetings. Okay. I'm trying to connect here. It says I already have one meeting in progress. You can start or join a new meeting after you leave the previous meeting. Okay. It says if I'm having trouble with the app, join from the browser. So it says I have one meeting in progress, which I don't see. Wow, let's see here. Okay, we're joining the meeting. There's that. There's that. Okay, folks, we are in. It says we're muted. Okay, so we're obviously in. All right. Meeting is in progress.
Hi, everyone. This is Tess from Senator Padilla's office. Thank you so much for joining, and we will get started here in just a few minutes.
Hi, everybody. We're going to start momentarily. It looks like I'm not lined up on the right screen. One moment, please. Let me straighten that out. Welcome. Whoops. Hold on a second, folks. Let me straighten out something. Oops. There it is.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Senator Padilla's press conference on the American Rescue Act. We're just going to get started here in 1 minute. Again, I want to remind folks on the line, if you have a question, please put it in the chat and raise your hand as well, so we can get to you once we open it up for Q&A after the speaker's remarks. And Senator Padilla, I will pass it over to you.
There we go. Thank you for allowing me to unmute myself. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. You're going to sense a sense of urgency from my voice, from Mayor Schaaf and Mayor Garcia as well. I'll introduce them more properly here in a second, and it's for a good reason. Not just because there's a very important bill on the floor of the United States Senate today, which we will be acting on and talking about in this virtual briefing, but the urgency even more so because of the state of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're at roughly the anniversary mark of everybody really coming to terms with the danger, the threat, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic as we have come to know it. And even while the number of cases is dipping down, the number of deaths on a daily basis is trending down. They're still way too high for what's in the best interest of California and the nation. We know we have much more work to do and many more resources at the state and local level necessary to provide relief for families, for small businesses, and others. So we wanted to convene this briefing and availability to help drive home the point of what's being delivered in the American Rescue Plan, the critical COVID relief bill that's on the floor of the Senate, as I mentioned. And I want to thank Mayor Libby Schaaf from the city of Oakland, Mayor Robert Garcia from the city of Long Beach for joining me today to help bring not just a local perspective, but to help drive home the point for why this direct relief for families and for communities is so needed and urgently needed. So thank you to both of you. Folks, as we have all watched the news, we know that as a nation, we recently surpassed the threshold of 500,000 lives lost due to COVID during the course of this pandemic. For the state of California, that's 50,000 family members and friends in California that have lost their lives due to the coronavirus. In the course of it all, we've been kept apart from our family, from our friends and our loved ones. We've missed celebrating milestones in person, whether it's graduations, whether it's birthdays, whether it's anniversaries. Tragically, many who could not be by their loved ones as their lives came to an end due to the COVID-19 virus. The isolation of stay-at-home orders and other public health directives have taken a toll on our mental health as well in a way that's incalculable and lasting, and only in time will we come to appreciate the magnitude and severity of all that. But with all that being said, today I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because we are voting on the American Rescue Package today that will bring relief to the nation and especially to the state of California. As part of my work here in the Senate, I made sure to work closely with and most recently meet in person with Speaker Pelosi just last week to ensure that the COVID package indeed has the resources and the targets necessary to be significant to meet California's specific needs. And so as I get to the guidance, let me just underscore that this is short-term relief. Maybe not everything we're going to need to get through the end of the pandemic, but it is urgent relief, and I believe it will truly help. The first thing I'll call our attention to is this package delivers $20 billion to ramp up the vaccine program. We're talking not just supply, but distribution and administration of vaccines in the state of California. It includes nearly $50 billion for COVID testing and tracing, separate and apart from supporting the vaccine programs. It provides additional funding to sustain and grow our public health workforce, which was underfunded prior to the pandemic. We're scrambling build out the capacity we need to help our communities weather the COVID-19 pandemic. It does deliver $41 billion in aid to address food insecurity in the state of California. Again, an issue that was there prior to the pandemic, but it's only been exacerbated. And I know this is a welcome figure for local governments throughout the state. This package invests in small businesses, particularly live venues and cultural institutions, to keep workers employed, communities thriving, and these facilities, while not hosting live events right now, still available for utilization, whether it's for testing facilities, for vaccination facilities, and the like. This package invests $16 billion so that we can help safely reopen K through 12 schools. We know that when we reopen, there's an urgency to reopen, but we must reopen safely. And this package brings the resources home to be able to implement the public health protocols that are necessary to safely reopen. It also provides $2.5 billion for emergency financial aid for colleges and universities. This package provides direct relief payment and expands the earned income tax credit for 1.8 1.8 million Californians, California workers without children. The bill helps address California's affordable housing and homelessness crisis with emergency rental and homeowner assistance funding, as well as additional funding to fight homelessness, something that the mayors and I have been in talks with for some time now. But my main priority is that relief and recovery are also equally felt, equitably distributed throughout our state. And for all of us, this is personal, so I'll just speak to myself. Pacoima, California, the community I grew up in the Northeast San Fernando Valley, for a stretch there was the epicenter of COVID in the state of California. I think about my parents, my father who worked as a short order cook, my mom who was a domestic worker for 40 years, both who held jobs that are considered essential today, right? So we acknowledge that many people throughout the state of California who do not have the luxury or the privilege to work safely from home. They're out there on the front lines in essential sectors, risking their health, risking their lives to keep others safe and our economy going. And as a side note, that's why I'm proud to make reference to my first bill introduced as a United States Senator to provide a pathway to citizenship for non-citizens who have been working as essential workers throughout this pandemic. Is today's bill perfect? No. I'll give a couple of things that I wish were a little bit different about the bill, but I do think it's tremendously helpful and should be approved today. First, I share the frustration that this bill did not include the $15 minimum wage. We know that not just one or a couple of time direct assistance to families is necessary. A permanent wage increase to help lift families out of poverty is consistent with COVID relief and so desperately needed. Do I wish the direct checks in the package were more generous? Absolutely. But this bill is a good start, and California needs as much relief as possible, as quickly as possible. And today we'll be providing that, but then work in the weeks and months ahead to do even more. Not just to provide more relief, but to do what's necessary for our state to fully and equitably recover from this pandemic. I know our time together is limited, so next I want to turn it over to my friend Mayor Schaaf from Oakland. You'll hear from her. We'll hear from Mayor Garcia from the city of Long Beach after that, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So thank you all for your patience and your attention today. Mayor Schaaf, over to you.
Thank you for your fierce leadership, your willingness to just continually go to bat for the people of California, and that includes the people of Oakland. I also have reflected on what we were doing 1 year ago this week. This is the week that I got the fateful call from Governor Newsom about the Grand Princess and its need to dock in Oakland. And what a year it has been since that time. The American Rescue Plan is a rescue plan for Oakland. I can't tell you how gut-wrenching this last year has been, as the needs of our community never been more acute or desperate. And at the same time, COVID has also impacted the revenues of our cities. And what is so hopeful for all of us in this moment is this is the first rescue plan that includes funding for city and county governments that have been devastated by the economic impacts of COVID-19. And let me tell you what that looks like in Oakland. This has been one of the most violent years in my beloved hometown that we have had in recent memory. And yet, out of fiscal necessity, I have had to reduce public safety services. We have had to release more than 500 of our lowest wage workers in the middle of a pandemic because we have, in just the last 14 months, accrued more than a $200 million deficit. This is having real impacts on public safety, on services, on just the health and cleanliness of our city. And this America Rescue Plan will also rescue our cities. And it will allow us not just to restore the services that we've had to cut, but to bring that desperately needed aid to our communities that keep us up every night. Last week, I stood at a candlelight in a park in East Oakland where a father was shot while watching his children's football practice in front of more than 50 children. These are the tragedies that we deal with every day, that we know are being affected by these secondary impacts of COVID-19 and their economic ramifications. This is why this bill is so important and desperately needed. This is one of the most comprehensive stimulus or relief packages that this country has ever seen. And it is this type of bold leadership that is needed in this moment. I am so tired of telling people that the federal government is the only layer of government that gets a credit card. The rest of us have to, by law, work within our ever decreasing means. But the federal government is the one part of our collective best selves that can step forward in this moment and bring desperately needed relief and, yes, rescue to the people of America, California, and yes, Oakland. With that, I'm very happy to turn it over to one of my favorite mayors in Long Beach, California, another proud port town, and that is Mayor Robert Garcia.
Thank you very much, and thank you to, of course, Mayor Schaaf. I agree with everything you said, but most importantly, I want to thank Senator Padilla for inviting us to share some perspectives from cities and on the ground, and how this a really important bill will help us all across the state of California and the country. And Senator Padilla, thank you for your leadership on this, and we agree with you. No bill is perfect, but this bill should pass, and cities and our residents in our cities are counting on this incredible plan presented by the president, and of course now in the Senate. One thing I want to note is how important these resources are going to be directly to the people in American cities and certainly in California. I don't think people have really realized that as cities, we have been all drawing down our reserves and drawing down all our budgets. When it came in and began talking about testing back in the former administration, there weren't a lot of resources that came with that. We had to step up ourselves. We had to dip into all of our emergency reserves and also decrease services. Oftentimes, one thing that you're going to hear in cities across the country is folks saying, why is my street sweeping a little bit slower? Why don't I get the same level of service as I once did? Why do I see more people on the streets experiencing homelessness in this crisis? All of those things come back to this crisis that we're in. We've had more people that are out sick. We have had to reduce services because the resources aren't there. And all of us have had to dip down into these reserves. And so this rescue plan will absolutely rescue California cities. And we want to thank Senator Padilla for his leadership on that. This will allow us to rebuild emergency reserves for the next emergency. It will allow us to ensure that we're not destroying services, but rebuilding those services for cities. And it's going to help us really get back to getting the basic needs that people need all up and down the state. Beyond the support for cities directly, it's going to allow us to also support people in our community and businesses in our community. We'll be able to do more giving grants and small businesses throughout our city opportunities. We'll be able to also invest in local community organizations that are doing the on-the-ground work around vaccination and testing. This plan is also an equity plan. We have to make sure that if we're going to reach these hard-to-reach communities of color, communities all up and down the state, whether they're in Oakland or whether they're in Long Beach or in San Diego or Sacramento, we need to have funding to ensure that there are trusted partners on the ground that can do that work and ensure that vaccinations are happening consistently. So as mayors, we 100% not just support this plan, we have been involved from day one in its development, as has Senator Padilla, bringing us all together and kind of advocating for us. And so I just want to join Mayor Schaaf as well, our senator here, just to encourage us to get this done ASAP. We need it immediately, and we're happy to support this. It's going to be a game changer for Long Beach and for the country as well.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. Now we're ready to open it up for the question and answer portion. A reminder, in order to raise your hand to ask a question, please click the smiling face at the bottom next to the share button, and you'll be able to raise your hand that way. I can unmute you at that point. All right, I see we have a question from Zenny Abraham. So Zenny, I will unmute your line now.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and good morning, and thank you, Mayor Schaaf. I'm curious to know, in this bill, is there provision to actually allow cities to design their own programs? Let me explain in a very short way. I've been involved in this for a generation. We had the Oakland Business Development Corporation, and the Urban Revitalization Program in 1987 gave us matching funds from the federal government, and then we could go to the private sector and then ask for the additional monies. This is just giving everything to the private sector. My company's got a PPP loan. I'm with just 2% from the African-American community nationwide. There are a lot of problems because the private sector's institutionally racist system is foisted upon this program, and it's causing a lot of problems. Thank you for your time for asking the question.
Go ahead, let me know. I'll add after.
Well, first, I want to say hi to my dear friend, Zenny Abraham, amazing. The original vlogger of Oakland and really nationally followed. So Zenny, I absolutely hear what you're talking about. We certainly have seen the shortfalls of the PPP program, particularly with BIPOC communities. Our lower income entrepreneurs have really had trouble accessing that program. And that's why it's so important to get money to the local level. We know our communities. We know how to find the most impacted communities that have been left out of traditional programs. And that's why this American Rescue Act is so inspirational, because it, for the first time, gives cities that type of flexibility. Now, I do want to be clear that Oakland, like a $200 million deficit, and despite the gut-wrenching cuts that we have made, we are on track right now to completely exhaust all our emergency reserves, all of them. If this rescue does not come through, the city services will not be rescued. And so we are going to be working with the county and state, who will also be getting resources through this Rescue Act to design more responsive and culturally competent programs to actually get to our entrepreneurs and our community members who need the help the most and generally have been left out of traditional programs. Thanks for your question, Zenny.
Oh, thank you.
So, good job, Mayor Schaaf. Just a couple points I would add. One, you mentioned the PPP program is probably Exhibit A on how things could have been done better in earlier relief packages. That is not lost on me, not lost on my colleagues in the Senate. And so there are going to be measures in place to ensure more equitable distribution of resources available through the Small Business Administration. You shouldn't have to, have high-priced law firms or major financial institutions behind you to get the resources you need as a small business owner quickly. And so we're going to learn from the earlier stages of relief and make sure that going forward it is done well. In terms of conditions or criteria for reopening at the local or even regional level, that, as we've all learned, is only done in partnership, not just with the resources from the federal government, but through the leadership of Governor Newsom, working together with county officials and local municipal officials to deem when it is safe and how much to reopen in stages. So That's done in partnership across various levels of government. Before we go to the next question, I just want to make sure we provide a couple of bits for our Spanish language media partners that have joined us. Gracias por acompañarnos hoy. Estamos unidos, los alcaldes Schaaf en la ciudad de Oakland y Garcia en la ciudad de Long Beach, y yo, su servidor, el senador Alex Padilla, en favor del paquete de ayuda que está bajo consideración en el Senado Federal hoy mismo. Sabemos que ya tenemos poco más de un año sufriendo durante esta pandemia. Hemos visto el impacto no solo en cuestión de salud, sino el impacto económico este último año. Por eso que estamos en favor de tomar acción urgente para proveer esos recursos. Recursos en este paquete para ampliar los programas de vacunas, no solo el número de vacunas disponibles, pero asegurando que tenemos más prioridad en las ciudades más impactadas por esta pandemia. Recursos para empresarios de negocios chicos, trabajado tanto, han sacrificado tanto, tratando de mantener abiertas sus puertas este último año. Recursos para familias que o tienen menos sueldo este año o han perdido sus empleos este último año por cuestión de la economía, asistencia para familias, gobiernos estatales, locales y más, que sabemos es tan urgente considerando el sufrimiento que estamos viendo en todas las áreas del estado y en el país. Así que estamos viendo apoyo y un mensaje para nuestros colegas en otros estados en favor de este paquete de ayuda que está enfrente del Senado Federal hoy mismo. Mayor Schaaf, welcome me to join. I know Mayor Garcia is also able to share a few words in Spanish. And next question.
Pues mi español que tuyo, porque estudié en escuela en Oakland. Pero la comunidad de Oakland necesitan este apoyo del gobierno federal. Y muchas gracias a nuestra senador Alex Padilla. Tú eres un líder que estoy muy orgulloso. En este momento es trágico el impacto de COVID-19, de este virus, en la comunidad de Oakland y también para el gobierno local de Oakland, porque necesitan corte los fondos para seguridad, para los parques. Los trabajadores de Oakland son sin trabajo porque el impacto económico de COVID. Y este American Rescue Plan es el plano que necesitamos ahora mismo. Gracias.
Gracias, alcalde Schaaf. Muy bien hecho, muy bien hecho. Alcalde Garcia.
Muy bien, alcalde Schaaf. Además, también quiero decir que es importante, este plan es tan importante para nuestras ciudades acá en Estados Unidos y en California, y va a ayudar a la comunidad directamente para poder tener vacunas, para poder tener exámenes de COVID-19, también para poder ayudar a la comunidad directamente en los lugares donde trabajamos, para ayudar a gente que está experienciando homelessness, y también para ayudar a las sociedades para poder tener los servicios que todos nosotros necesitamos en nuestras comunidades, en nuestros barrios. Estamos apoyando acá al senador Padilla, estamos apoyando a la comunidad, al Estado, para por favor que pasen este plan acá en el Senado para ayudar a todas nuestras ciudades en el Estado de Cali.
Gracias. Thank you for that. Vika, next question.
Thank you, Senator. At this time, if you have a question, please click the smiling face at the bottom of your screen next to the share button. There are no additional hands raised at the moment. We'll just give it another minute and then we can wrap up. All right, I see one. Lori has a question. Let me unmute that.
Yes, this is Juan Esparza Lumera with Vida and Valle newspaper in Fresno, California. Good morning from California, as you all are from. My question has to do more with oversight of the spending by cities and counties. Is there a mechanism in place on the federal government's side to make sure that the funds are being spent the way they were designed to be spent?
So, yes, happy to follow up with you with more specifics, but, using the stimulus packages back in 2007 and the Great Recession as a model, there is full accounting required for expenditures from these packages. So ensure that the oversight will be coming in due time, but we didn't want to have that hold up the resources that we need to get out the door now. I've been pointing to the direct relief checks, for example, to struggling families, not as stimulus checks, but as survival checks. So we can and must do both, provide the necessary oversight over time, but move urgently needed resources to struggling families, struggling businesses, and state and local governments as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Juan. With that, I believe we have finished all of our questions, and we can wrap up the press conference. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator, for all your leadership.
Thank you, mayors.
So that ends the meeting. It was, for whatever reason, I think the reason why this wasn't well attended by press is there just isn't a lot of press. There should be more interest in this and the nuts and bolts of this, but there isn't. One moment, please. Just texting something real quick here. Okay, so anyway, that concludes the meeting. There don't appear to be any comments, so having noticed that, I'm going to sign off. Barbara Lee has a meeting as well going right now. I'm going to go over and see if that's still going on, and I could get that live stream out. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody.